Hey guys, how are you doing today? We're in the camper today and we're going to do a product review of the BougeRV 1100Wh portable power station. So stay tuned. This is a really good unit that has a nice balance of capacity and capability with still maintaining portability with coming in only 30 pounds. What is a portable power station? I consider them a 3-in-1 unit. They all have some form of a lithium-ion battery, which includes this BougeRV 1100Wh one. That's the capacity. They include a inverter, which is a device that will transform the DC power coming from the battery to AC power, so you can use it to power, standard appliances. Finally, these units have a solar charge controller that allows you to charge it via solar, and they also typically include some sort of AC plug. And all three of those primary components, which are kind of considered the staples of a basic electrical system for a camper, for example, or many other activities, are all wrapped up in a convenient package and a digital display which can show your battery percentage and your watts in and your watts out. Just let me touch on some specific stats. The capacity, which is essentially the size of the battery on this, is 1100 watt hours. Now, a little bit later in the video, I'm going to talk about what that gets you, okay? The inverter in this, which is, remember, the device that transforms DC to AC so you can use basic common appliances, is 1200 watts, meaning that you can run an appliance that takes up about 1200 watts of energy. Most appliances, per codes in the United States, have to note that in the back. But it also has a 2000 watt surge. So many appliances, when you initially turn it on, will pull more power than they would in their steady state of running. And finally, the solar input is 200 watts. So let's break down each of those components, and I'm going to kind of give you some insight. Then the final thing I want to talk about at the end is kind of this display in the front, which makes this very easy to use. I'm going to bring in my son Zane because he did some tests on the USB ports on here on how fast they would charge a phone. I'll bring him in to talk about that later. So let's move in and talk about capacity. 1100 watt hours. Well, let's come down to it. What does that really mean? The literature provided with this particular power unit says that you can run a mini fridge for 20 hours. You could run a coffee maker for about an hour and a half. Again, there's probably going to be some variance. These are just approximations. An electric grill for about 50 minutes. A pressure cooker for about 55 minutes, and a microwave for 50 minutes. Well, all of these are big AC appliances. But if you're using it in the application I am, such as in a camper like this, for efficiency, most of everything that we use is going to be DC. And for those who don't know about my truck camper, or my channel, this is my small little home-built truck camper. I use all DC lighting. I have a max air vent fan. Over here I have a 55 quart fridge, and what I found is that I can essentially, I hooked up this power station. I'm still working on the camper, but I hooked it up to the electrical system that stands in place, and I found that I can get about 2 days of basic use out of this power station. That would encompass running my fridge. Now, it is winter time right now. The fridge doesn't take up an enormous amount of energy, but that would be, me running the lights in here for a reasonable amount of time, running the vent fan for a couple hours, something like this. So let's say you had a little camper like mine, you went out to take it out. This would probably get you about 2 days of that basic use. And that might also include, charging a phone a couple times, maybe a laptop once. One nice thing, and I'm going to talk about an emergency use, and this is a good redundancy mechanism if you did have a camper. But I went over to a buddy's, and he has a commercially built, a small little off-road trailer style camper. And it's all hardwired for DC and AC. And the nice thing was, he of course has AGM batteries on board, but we just plugged in his AC plug that you would use, for example, if you were going to plug into shore power. We just plugged it into the AC outlets on this, and it essentially ran his entire little camper as though he was using his AGM batteries. So we've talked about the capacity. I've talked about what the literature says, but I've also kind of given you, perhaps more importantly, some real-world examples. Let me show you something here. Now, this is a pretty impressive unit. Right here in the front, they have the AC outlets. Okay, so what you would do is you turn on the main unit, and then to save energy, they have a secondary little button right here that you would turn on. So this right here is a little space heater. Okay, this might be something that you bring in your office. On high, it pulls over 1,000 watts. So we're going to turn this on. I'm going to show you what the output looks like on this little digital gauge here, which I actually really like. And you'll see kind of a sense for how long the battery percentage goes down. Now I have this on max. Okay, now this has a built-in fan to keep it cool. That kicked on. And if you look right there, you can see right now it's pulling very close to 1,000 watts. Okay, now I think that might be reversed in the camera, but it's at 97% and it's pulling 998 watts. Now the percentage is already dropped. It dropped down 1, and we'll leave this little heater running here, and we'll probably see it drop down here in a second. So if you did the math, a little space heater like this running on high, you could run something like that on this little power station here for about an hour, and it's pulling everything really well. Now that's impressive because I've seen a lot of power stations or inverters that rate their running capacity, but when you really get down to running appliances right up on the margin of that capacity, which is what we're doing here, a lot of times they'll shut down or they really won't work too well. So this is a good indicator to me that this is probably a very high quality inverter on here. Let's move on and talk now about the solar charge controller. Now, this is the one place where I do definitely want to make note on here of a consideration if some of you out there might want to purchase an item like this. The solar charge controller on this allows for 200 watts of energy to come in. Okay, that would be either via solar or AC. Reach out to the company and a couple other companies and did some research on how the pass-through energy uses work on these. And for the battery to last the maximum amount of time that it can, so for example, this one is rated at 1,500 cycles of a full charge to a full discharge. If you, say for example, were to plug this into solar and continuously power it as you're running other appliances, according to BougeRV, it actually will kind of reduce the number of usable cycles that this solar gen could potentially have. Even though their input capacity is not necessarily the highest out there on the market, they probably did that to protect the unit and maintain the integrity of its longevity. So in retrospect, at least as I understand what it was explained to me, that's probably a good thing. For my particular camper, the one we're in here, I'm going to have a component system, meaning I have all the individual components, but I will run this, bring this with me to maybe charge some smaller items, but most importantly function as redundancy if I ever have a breakdown in any other part of the system. Well, as far as the output panel on here, you could see that you have 3 plug-ins for electrical devices. Now I know these look a little strange, but I assure you that your standard, well, this one doesn't have the 3-prong, but I have tested the 3 prongs. You plug them in there and they fit in these little recesses and everything is fine. This little section here, and they include the cable, is the plug-in for the solar input, and it has an MC4 connection on the outside. This is the DC input if you were to actually plug this into your house and charge it. Over here on this side, it has a cigarette lighter for cigarette lighter or devices that run on cigarette lighters, and it has a plug-in for DC 12 volt, or 2 different plug-ins for DC 12 volt out. And now over here, it has a whole bunch of different options for USB. I'm going to hand this over to Zane because he did an extended test on that to show you how well this does. Zane, you want to pop in?
Thanks, Dave. I performed a series of tests with these USBs, charging my iPhone SE for 3 minutes to see the capability of how much these could charge. Now, for the fast charge, which is a USB 3.0, my phone started at 73% and ended at 73%, so it stayed the same, and its average watts output was 3, and it ranged from 1 to 8. Now, for the 5V 2.4A, which is a USB Type A, my phone went from 73% to 75%, a 2% increase. The average watt output was 1, with it ranging between 1 and 3. All right, I'll hand it back to Dave.
All right. Hey, thanks, Zane. I really appreciate that. Point is that these different USB outlets actually work quite fast. The fast charger one is probably something that's more applicable for some of the for some Android devices that use that special output. But it's a great opportunity to bring this with you, have emergency power to run your, charge up your phone, for example, as Zane was talking about in there. So guys, in short, I think this is a really good unit. What's exciting is I have some really good coupon codes. In fact, one that would allow you to get this unit for 50% off that runs through to New Year's Eve day, so 12/31. If you look down in the description, I have those codes, and essentially how they work is this: there's going to be a link to BougeRV's primary website, and on there it has a lot of the main products, including this power station, and how much they're off for the sale. But you have to use a coupon code, and you can use the coupon codes of in-game and then the corresponding percentage off. So for example, in-game 50 for this one. If there was a product that was 40% off, it would be in-game 40. So in short though, guys, I think this is a great little unit. I think these units offer a lot of capability for emergencies or just for everyday use. And for people that are either full-time nomads in a camper or even those just out camping, I think something like this is a great option to carry out many of your day-to-day tasks, but also function as an important redundancy in case you have a failure of some of your other main components. It's not the biggest on the market, it's not the smallest, but it's a nice balance of cost, size, and weight. Guys, check out the coupon codes below, and thanks for watching.